Samuel was walking home from work, the sun beating down on the dusty streets of Ogboni. He felt tired and thirsty, ready only for cold water and rest. That was when he saw her standing by the old abandoned market road, a figure who seemed out of place. Something inside him pulled him closer, though he didn't understand why. Mama Adoni smiled at him gently. Her skin glowed in the sun, her eyes sparkled, and she carried herself like someone far younger than she really was. She introduced herself simply, but there was something magnetic about her presence. Samuel felt drawn, his heart racing in a way he could not explain. What Samuel did not know was that Mama Adoni was an old woman, 65 years old, living deep in the forest. She had used charms, juju, and old spiritual powers for years. And she had already chosen him, long before their first meeting. When Samuel greeted her, a strange warmth filled the air. A small wind swirled around them even though the day was still. He blinked, and when his eyes opened, all he could see was beauty. The truth of her age and nature vanished from his mind. By the time he reached home, he could not stop smiling. His mother, Mama Okoro, noticed and asked what had happened. He only said, "I met someone special," unaware that the special woman had already begun weaving her spell around him. From that day, Samuel could think of nothing else. At work, he forgot tools, mixed up jobs, and stared into space. His friends teased him, joking that he was in love, but he laughed it off. The truth was far stranger than he knew. The charm had already begun controlling his thoughts. Every evening, he walked to the same spot, and Mama Adoni was always there. She seemed to wait just for him. Each visit made him feel closer to her, and each touch, each smile, wrapped him deeper in her spell. He could not see her true form, he only saw what she wanted him to see. Mama Adoni whispered softly into his ear during their meetings. Small instructions at first: keep her secret, ignore others, always come when she called. Samuel obeyed without question. With every word, the rope of charm tightened around his mind. His mother, Mama Okoro, began to notice the change. Samuel ate less, slept poorly, and sometimes muttered to himself. She prayed over him nightly, asking God to reveal the truth. But the charm was strong and clouded his heart. The spell grew daily. Samuel became blind to warnings, deaf to advice. Only Mama Adoni could make him feel alive. He did not know he was slowly being used, his family pushed away, and his future stolen by her cunning magic. Samuel's family noticed the changes immediately. He stopped laughing with his siblings and avoided meals with his parents. When friends visited, he became restless and defensive. Mama Okoro worried. She prayed and pleaded, but Samuel snapped at her, saying she didn't understand true love. One afternoon, Mama Okoro followed him secretly. She saw Samuel speaking to the woman in the market. For a moment, she caught a glimpse of truth, the old, wrinkled form of Mama Adoni. She gasped but blinked, and suddenly Samuel saw her as beautiful again. Fear gripped Mama Okoro. She realized the danger. Her son was trapped by something more than mere attraction, he was ensnared spiritually. She rushed home, trembling, and prayed harder than ever before. When she tried to confront Samuel that evening, he grew angry. He accused her of jealousy, of not understanding true love. He insisted he knew what was best for himself. The family finally understood they were facing a powerful spiritual force. They prayed, planned, and watched. Samuel's behavior was no longer natural, it was orchestrated by someone else. Samuel began avoiding his family entirely. He spent more time with Mama Adoni, leaving home secretly at night. She told him he must prove his loyalty, and he obeyed without question, bringing her money, food, and gifts. Each task drew him further from his family. Rumors spread quickly through the town. People whispered that Samuel had fallen for a dangerous woman, someone who used charms. Friends and neighbors tried to intervene, but Samuel defended her fiercely, insisting that no one could understand their true love. Mama Okoro's heart ached. Her only son, once so bright and kind, was now a shadow of himself. She stayed up at night, praying and crying, asking God to protect him and reveal the truth. Mama Adoni's control grew stronger. She whispered lies, told him his mother was against him, and convinced him to cut off communication. Every day, Samuel became a little less himself. It was clear, Samuel was trapped, and only the power of prayer and spiritual intervention could free him from Mama Adoni's grasp. One evening, Mama Adoni gave Samuel a small calabash wrapped in red cloth. She told him it contained blessings and that he must never open it or show it to anyone. Samuel, blinded by devotion, obeyed immediately. At home, Mama Okoro sensed something wrong. She asked Samuel where he had been, what he carried, but he became aggressive and defensive. The charm whispered lies, making him see her as an enemy. Inside the calabash were powders, cowries, and old spiritual items designed to control Samuel completely. It was a spiritual anchor connecting him to Mama Adoni. That night, Samuel's dreams were strange and restless. Shadows and whispers filled his mind, yet the charm made him believe he was safe and loved. Mama Okoro prayed fervently that God would reveal the truth. She knew that if the calabash remained in Samuel's possession, the older woman's control would become impossible to break. Samuel's visits to Mama Adoni became more frequent. He avoided his family entirely, leaving home without explanation. Each night, he returned exhausted but strangely satisfied, believing he was fulfilling his true love. The family noticed his absence and worried silently. His siblings tried to talk to him, teasing or reasoning, but Samuel snapped at them. "You don't understand love," he shouted. Each word was sharp and bitter, a mark of the charm's power. His mother's warnings fell on deaf ears. Mama Adoni whispered daily instructions, telling him whom to trust and whom to avoid. Samuel obeyed every word, bringing her money, food, and small gifts. Each errand tightened the spiritual rope binding him to her. Rumors in the town began spreading. People whispered about the dangerous older woman controlling Samuel. They spoke of charms, juju, and dark rituals. But Samuel dismissed them, calling the town gossips jealous and ignorant. Mama Okoro could do nothing but pray. She stayed awake at night, calling on God for protection. She knew the charm had made her son blind to the truth, and only divine intervention could save him. One evening, Mama Adoni told Samuel they would soon marry. She smiled sweetly and asked him to promise loyalty, swearing he would obey her no matter what. Samuel, enthralled, agreed instantly, seeing only her beauty and charm. She gave him a small calabash, wrapped tightly in red cloth. "Keep this under your pillow," she said. "It will protect our love." Samuel obeyed, not realizing the object was a spiritual anchor, strengthening her control. Back home, Samuel ignored his mother's questions about the calabash. When Mama Okoro tried to confront him, he became angry, shouting that she was jealous and didn't understand their love. His charm-induced blindness was complete. Friends warned him about Mama Adoni, but Samuel refused to listen. Each warning felt like an attack. His devotion was absolute, his mind clouded by juju and lies. That night, Samuel dreamt of strange shadows around the calabash. Whispers called his name, but the charm twisted the voices, making him believe they were merely the winds of destiny, guiding him to love. Seeing their son drifting further, Mama Okoro called Pastor Okafor for help. She explained Samuel's strange behavior, the calabash, and the older woman's influence. The pastor nodded gravely, knowing this was a case of powerful charm work. They began daily prayers in Samuel's home. The family gathered, calling on God to break the spiritual chains. The atmosphere in the house felt tense, heavy with unseen forces resisting the prayers. Samuel felt an odd pressure in his chest during the prayers. The charm reacted violently, whispering threats and lies into his mind. He told himself his mother was jealous, that she was trying to steal his happiness. The pastor warned them to be patient and careful. For since Samuel would not walk, the older woman had tied his spirit to hers. They needed a careful balance of faith and strategy. Mama Okoro prayed tirelessly, crying and fasting. She knew that the more she prayed, the weaker the charm would eventually become. But she also feared that without divine help, her son's life could be completely consumed. One night, the calabash under Samuel's pillow began shaking violently. Samuel awoke, sweating and panicked, but the charm told him it was harmless, just a sign of their destined love. His younger sister entered his room by accident, seeing the red-wrapped calabash. A soft humming sounded from inside. Terrified, she dropped it and ran screaming to their mother. The family rushed in, but Samuel shoved them away, yelling that they were trying to destroy his love. His eyes were dark, empty, and uncontrolled. The charm had fully taken over. Pastor Okafor arrived, sensing the spiritual presence immediately. He asked Samuel to hand over the calabash. Samuel refused, and the charm made him clench his fist, almost like a wild animal fighting for its master. The pastor knew that breaking the anchor was critical. The spiritual battle had begun, and Samuel's freedom depended on confronting Mama Adoni's power directly. In her bush shrine, Mama Adoni sensed resistance. The charms shook and the candle flames flickered. She realized the family's prayers were breaking her control. Rage filled her old body. She decided to act quickly. That night, she appeared in Samuel's dream, standing tall and radiant in red. She whispered lies, claiming that his mother and family wanted to kill him and destroy their love. Samuel woke terrified. The dream felt real, twisting his perception. He believed every word and held onto Mama Adoni even tighter. The charm had created a bubble of isolation around him, separating him from reason and truth. Meanwhile, Mama Okoro prayed fiercely. She felt the spiritual battle intensify but refused to let fear stop her. She asked God to expose the older woman and deliver her son. The tension built. Samuel's life was now fully in the hands of powers beyond the physical world, and the next few days would decide everything. One night, Samuel followed Mama Adoni deep into the forest. She led him to a hidden shrine filled with black powders, candles, and strange symbols carved into the floor. The air was thick, heavy, and unnatural. Samuel felt a shiver, but the charm twisted it into excitement. "This is our destiny," Mama Adoni whispered, holding his hand and leading him through the eerie space. He felt powerful and important, believing this was proof of their love. Inside the shrine, Mama Adoni chanted softly, calling on her juju to bind Samuel even more tightly. He didn't understand what was happening spiritually, only that it made him feel closer to her than ever. Back at home, Mama Okoro prayed more fiercely than ever. She had a vision of her son trapped, almost a prisoner of the older woman's power. She knew that she needed to act soon, or Samuel would be lost forever. The spiritual tension grew. Samuel felt love, devotion, and confusion all at once. He did not realize that his obedience was feeding the very magic that kept him blind. One morning, Mama Adoni declared it was time to make things official. Samuel was elated. She suggested a formal engagement, saying it would strengthen their bond and prepare them for marriage. Samuel agreed immediately. The town began buzzing with whispers. People noticed the strange age difference and the obvious power Mama Adoni held over Samuel. They questioned how he could be so blind. He shrugged it off, saying no one understood true love. Samuel's friends tried to intervene, but he rejected all advice. "This is between me and her," he insisted. "No one else can decide what I feel." Mama Okoro felt her heart break. She prayed and fasted, knowing the engagement was a critical moment. If the charm remained unbroken, Samuel would be trapped forever. Meanwhile, Mama Adoni prepared the spiritual protections for the engagement. She knew that her control over Samoa was strongest at these ceremonial moments, and she intended to use the celebration to solidify her hold. The engagement day arrived. Samoa wore his best suit, his heart full of excitement. Mama Adoni walked beside him, her face calm but her eyes gleaming with hidden power. The hall was decorated with flowers, candles, and an energy that felt heavy and almost unnatural. Guests whispered nervously. Many could see her age clearly, wrinkles on her face, stiffness in her posture, an aura that was anything but youthful. But Samoa saw only beauty, convinced he was in love with the most perfect woman. During the ceremony, the pastor began the vows. Samoa repeated each word obediently, blind to the truth surrounding him. Mama Adoni smiled, knowing her spell had made him unable to see reality. The tension in the room grew. Guests felt the spiritual weight, some uncomfortable, some praying silently. Everyone except Samoa could sense the danger. He was blissfully unaware, convinced of their destiny. Mama Okoro watched from the back, tears running down her face. She whispered prayers, calling on God to intervene. She knew the moment to expose the truth was near, and the wedding could not happen while Samoa was still under the spell. As the engagement period continued, Mama Adoni became bolder. She demanded more of Samoa's attention and wealth, using subtle threats wrapped in sweet words. "If you love me, you will obey," she whispered, her voice soft but commanding. Samoa, completely under her spell, obeyed without hesitation. He defended her constantly, insulting anyone who questioned their relationship. Even his closest friends began to worry that he would never see the truth. Mama Okoro grew desperate. She called on Pastor Okafor daily, pleading for guidance. "Son is blinded by a force beyond our understanding," she said, tears streaming. The pastor agreed, the spiritual battle had reached its critical point. The town watched Samoa drift further into the older woman's control. People whispered about charms, curses, and manipulation, but Samoa only laughed at them, claiming that no one understood true love. The pressure mounted. Mama Adoni knew the wedding was near, and she was ready to use the ceremony to cement her power. The family, sensing the danger, prepared for a confrontation that would decide Samoa's fate. Strange things began happening around Samoa. Candles flickered for no reason, small objects moved mysteriously, and a chill always followed him into Mama Adoni's presence. The spiritual energy in the air was heavy and almost suffocating. Samoa dismissed these signs as part of their destiny. His mind, clouded by the charm, twisted every warning into proof that their love was powerful and sacred. He refused to listen to any advice. Mama Okoro felt the danger growing. She prayed and fasted, her faith becoming a shield against the growing darkness. She also enlisted help from a few trusted relatives, ready to confront the older woman directly. Meanwhile, Mama Adoni prepared spiritually. She chanted over the calabash, over Samoa's belongings, and over herself, strengthening her hold. She knew that the wedding would be the moment of maximum control. The town began to murmur nervously. People sensed tension, whispering that something terrible might happen if Samoa married the older woman. Yet he remained blind, convinced that their love could conquer everything. The wedding day finally arrived. Samoa was radiant, smiling like a man possessed by happiness. Mama Adoni walked beside him, poised and calm, her charm radiating throughout the hall. Guests felt a strange heaviness in the air. Everyone could see her age, the wrinkles, the gray hair, the stiffness, but Samoa ignored it. He defended her constantly, saying, "You don't understand love. You can't see her beauty like I do." The family grew anxious. Mama Okoro watched from a distance, praying silently. She knew that unless the charm was exposed publicly, Samoa would be lost forever. Mama Adoni secretly prepared spiritually, her eyes gleaming as she anticipated the ceremony. Samoa, unaware of the danger, believed he was about to unite with his perfect love. The stage was set. Every guest, every relative, and every spiritual force was ready to witness a confrontation that would decide the fate of Samuel's heart and soul. The church filled with soft music and murmurs as the ceremony started. Samuel stood at the altar, smiling dreamily, completely under Mama Adoni's influence. Every word, every vow, seemed perfect to him. Guests whispered nervously. Everyone saw her clearly as an older woman, nothing mysterious. The charm only affected Samuel's perception. They were uneasy, sensing danger, but he refused to listen. The pastor began reading from the Bible, and Samuel repeated the words obediently. Mama Adoni smiled knowingly, confident that her spell had rendered him blind. Friends tried to intervene quietly, but Samuel's anger flared. "You don't understand what love is," he shouted. "None of you can see it like I do." Mama Okoro, standing at the back, felt her heart race. She prayed fervently, knowing the moment to expose the truth was close. Her faith would be the weapon to break the charm. Suddenly, the church doors burst open. Mama Okoro stormed down the aisle, eyes blazing, holding a Bible in one hand and a small bottle of anointing oil in the other. The congregation gasped. Samuel's face twisted in confusion. "Mama, what are you doing?" "Stop," he cried, but the charm had weakened under her prayers. She pointed at Mama Adoni. "Stop deceiving my son. He is under your spell, and your tricks end today." She splashed the anointing oil on the older woman. The veil of illusion shattered. Samuel blinked, and for the first time, he saw her true form, wrinkles, gray hair, and the dark energy that had controlled him for months. His heart sank. The spell holding him captive collapsed instantly. Mama Adoni screamed as the spiritual energy binding Samuel broke. Guests whispered, some even shouted prayers. Samuel fell to his knees, tears streaming, realizing the truth. Mama Okoro's faith had saved him, and the older woman's reign of control ended in chaos and defeat. The church fell silent after the chaos. Samuel stayed on his knees, trembling, trying to process what he had just seen. Mama Adoni's spells were broken, and the older woman looked weak and powerless. The congregation whispered and some crossed themselves. Pastor Okafor placed a comforting hand on Samuel's shoulder. "Son," he said softly, "God has delivered you. Your eyes are open now. Trust him." Samuel looked at his mother, tears streaming down his face. "Mama. I couldn't see. I was blind," he murmured. Mama Okoro held him tightly, whispering, "It's over, my son. God saved you." Outside the church, people whispered about the older woman's defeat. Some said they had never seen a charm so strong. Samuel's friends quietly congratulated him, relieved that the nightmare was over. For the first time in months, Samuel felt clarity. The world seemed brighter, lighter. He realized how far he had drifted from reality and how dangerously close he had come to losing himself completely. Mama Adoni struggled, her power gone. The anointing oil and prayers had stripped her of control. Some community members rushed forward to restrain her, ensuring she could harm no one else. The older woman screamed, thrashing, but it was useless. The spiritual forces that had protected her were gone. Pastor Okafor and a few men tied her hands, and she was arrested for manipulating and harming the young man. Samuel watched silently, his heart heavy but relieved. He understood the full weight of her deception, the money, the love, the control, all built on lies and supernatural manipulation. Mama Okoro whispered a prayer of thanks. "Lord, you have saved my son," she said softly, tears in her eyes. The family felt the spiritual victory deep in their hearts. Samuel realized he had been given a second chance. He promised himself he would never let anyone blind him with lies or charms again. He had been delivered, and his life could finally return to peace. The days that followed were filled with prayer, reflection, and family reunions. Samuel apologized to friends, family, and neighbors for his actions. He began to rebuild the relationships that Mama Adoni had broken. Mama Okoro stayed close, guiding him back to balance and faith. She helped him understand how the charm had worked and how easily the heart can be blinded when the spirit is vulnerable. Samuel also visited Pastor Okafor regularly, learning to pray and strengthen his spirit. Each day, he felt lighter, freer, and more himself. The darkness that had once clouded his mind slowly lifted. Even the town noticed the change. Samuel's laughter returned. His warmth and kindness slowly came back. People were amazed at how completely he had transformed. For Samuel, the lesson was clear: true love cannot be forced, bought, or controlled by magic. True love begins with the eyes wide open and the spirit free. Months later, Samuel stood in the sunlight, smiling. He had regained his life, his freedom, and his faith. Mama Okoro stood beside him, proud and grateful. The older woman was gone, punished for her crimes and stripped of her power. The nightmare was over, but the lessons remained in Samuel's heart forever. He began to focus on his future, dreams, and ambitions. He reconnected with friends, worked hard, and even helped others who had been affected by charms or deception in the town. Samuel understood now that love is not only about the heart, it is about the mind, the spirit, and discernment. He would never again allow someone to manipulate him through illusion or charm. And as he walked home one peaceful evening, Samuel whispered a silent prayer of thanks. The veil was gone, the spell broken, and a new chapter of life had begun, one filled with clarity, faith, and true freedom.